What is up, founders and friends? Welcome back to another episode of Never Too Early. I'm Lauren Ipsen, talent partner at Decibel, and today we are going to be spending time talking about all things community building, both physically and strategically. So I could not be more excited to welcome my guest today, Mallory. I have been a fan of hers for a very long time, ever since she started her first community, the Old Girls Club, and now she is currently running community for Lovable. Okay, Mallory, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. I couldn't think of anyone better to chat through all things community building than you. So I think we've got a lot to cover today in a very short period of time. So shall we jump into it?
Let's jump in.
Okay, sounds good. First and foremost, I think community building in general, specifically in technology and AI, has had this big surge over the course of the past year. I feel like you were kind of out in front of it. You've been doing this now for a little bit, and now most recently it's become even bigger on the B2B side for the first time. I think a lot of times when people think about community building, more often than not, especially initially, they were thinking about consumer products, right? And so I'd love to hear from you a little bit about the differences between building community from a B2B standpoint and a B2C standpoint. And then more generally, like, what does it even look like to build a community in more of an enterprise way?
I think really, I'd actually prefer to start with the similarities, which is that no matter whether you're doing B2B, B2C, enterprise, like CPG, software, you're always dealing with like an individual human being. So even with B2B, you are selling to a human. A human is making that decision. They have fears. They are stressed by certain things. They have things that they need to accomplish in order to keep their job, to get promoted, whatever. And so you are still, even though you are selling into a brand, you are actually selling into an individual the same way you would be in a B2C type of role. And I think that there are clear differences in marketing and in sales motions and things like that. But when it comes to community, it really actually kind of like levels out into a very similar motion across any type of business, which is how do we bring people together that are thinking about the same things, that are worried about the same things, that are trying to solve similar problems, and how do we get them to feel excited about a solution that we are bringing to them or that we're representing. That being said, I think that it's much harder to get people like stoked about stuff from that's like built by a B2B accounting software, right? And so I think you can't be quite as reliant on like the fun of it all in B2B, but you really need to be focused on what is the problem your brand is solving, who feels that problem deeply, get to know them like so well, and then figure out what they're going to be excited to sort of gather around. And usually it's not your software. Usually they want to gather around, again, like a problem or a shared belief system or a viewpoint, a perspective. And so I think one other thing I'll say about B2B especially is that you have to make it really clear what your POV is so that people can get excited about gathering around it. And I think that's sometimes where the B2B motion breaks, is because they're just like, come gather around our software. Like, I'll just keep on the accounting example. Like, hey, all of you accountants, we make accounting software. You should come and meet each other because you're accountants. But like,
right.
That's not interesting to anybody. You know, what is interesting is, hey, you're accountants who want to use AI to reinvent how they are doing accounting, and we're going to do a lot of like thought leadership and help you get ahead of your competitors using that. Or, hey, you're an accountant and your competitive advantage is that you're not using AI the same way that most other places are. And like, we want accountants that believe in that belief system to gather around you. So it becomes a lot more about who's in the room and what they're going to get excited about and what you represent to them.
I guess, like, what do you find to be the most sticky as far as what is interesting to these people?
It depends on what your goal is from community. So my first recommendation for anybody that's thinking about community as a motion is really to get tight on, is it acquisition? Is it retention? Is it research? And not trying to do all three at once. You can eventually do all three, but if you try to get all three to happen at the same time in the same medium with the same motion, it's not going to work.
Okay, yeah. So that's something that I wanted to touch on a little bit more. So when you and I have spoken about community in the past, we've talked about how it can be beneficial in helping you find your ICP or potential target audience or buyer. I'd love to get a better understanding as to how you can specifically go out to market and build a community for these different specific individuals. So whether it's a customer or a buyer, or whether it's, a user of a product, or whether it's someone where you're just simply trying to get more information. Like, how do you think about those things more strategically and target the right audiences for the right outcomes?
Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, the annoying answer is it depends. But I
Totally.
think the first thing that you need to do is look at what you have to work with already. So, for example, if you're a later stage company that has a ton of users, you can already go into your metrics and find those super users. You can find the people who are already going above and beyond in terms of their usage or their use cases, or like maybe they're hacking the product to like do something totally different. And I would always say start with those people and just like get them on the phone, get them in a room, make them feel special, whatever it is, and just like start that conversation and really try to pattern match as much as possible. Then, I mean, if you're in a middle stage or early stage where you don't really have those super users yet and you're still kind of trying to find your ICP, which I think is where this question is focused, is I think at that point you're looking for potential super users. And so what you need to do then is kind of put out almost some bat signals to like see what resonates. And so, for example, one of my favorite ways to do this is to start do like a virtual webinar series with different types of guests and like see what gets people excited and interested, and just like give them a reason to gather around you so that you can ask them questions and kind of observe. One of the best ways to do it is really just raise your hand as a brand or as an individual on social and be like, hey, I'm building this thing. I'm like looking for people that fit this kind of world, but I'm looking for input. Like, I want you to come along on this journey with me. People love to be part of a building journey, whether
Yeah.
it's with an individual founder or whether it's with a more established brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen you do that before on social where you've just kind of like personally raised your hand and said
Yeah,
that you wanted some input. Is there any example that comes to mind of different times where you
totally.
find that to be, beneficial?
Yeah, I actually just did this when I started at Lovable. I said, hey, like, here's my remit. I want to build this community alongside the people that are going to be excited about participating in it. Like, tell me the things that you feel like you would really want to learn. And I think asking people what they want to learn is a really great directional question to ask, because you're not asking for anything from them in that moment. You're just saying, hey, like, what do you not have enough of right now? And it helps you to kind of identify the white spaces in your space of like, okay, if everybody's asking for more information about this kind of like subset of problems in our
Yeah.
space, it means no one else is giving enough resources there. And like, that's a place where we can potentially step in as a brand and create value for a group of people that we care about.
Really cool. Awesome. One thing that's been coming up a lot since I'm on the venture side is across the board, I think I'm finding more and more that investors are pushing our founders to build community and build community early. And more often than not, they don't know where to start. And so I guess that's the question is, where do you begin and how do you do it in a way that feels authentic as opposed to just doing it for the sake of doing it and having it not yield results?
Yeah. I think usually from the VC perspective, and I don't mean to speak for all VCs, what they really mean is build distribution. Like, what they really mean when they say that is build a level of trust and organic distribution, because that pays off in dividends in a number of ways over time, whether it is that you end up using it mostly for product feedback, or it does end up being your acquisition channel, or whatever it is. And so if you're thinking about building a distribution channel or really building some sort of trust with people around you before you're selling to them or before you're trying to like push them down a funnel, I think in that case, that's when you have to decide what process you're going to follow. I'm horrible at short form video. Like, I've tried it a million times. I'm so fucking weird. I don't know if I can swear on this, but like,
You can.
I I come off as like the biggest weirdo on social, like I just can't do it. And so I've resorted to writing. I write on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, I write on Substack, and then I have been experimenting with long form video, like more highly produced, directed stuff where I still get
sure.
to share my perspective, but it's less like raw and quick and more kind of
Yeah.
produce, and that's what works for me. But ultimately they really should listen to that voice that is like, if you're not good at something, you're not going to suddenly be like viral the next day at it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point. I had a really good conversation with the CEO of Descript, Laura, about this, and she and I talked about it for a while because she encourages all founders to create some content around
Yeah.
themselves to let these people into their world. And it's funny because when I was initially pushed to create some element of content, I went to writing, and I've never been a strong writer ever. And I just thought, oh, this will be a good way for me to try and get my thoughts together. And I'll specifically speak to, all the different things that are happening in AI. And I quickly realized as I was trying to do this, like there's probably someone better suited to be doing this. And there's probably someone that also like I probably also shouldn't be writing. So I'm someone that needs to talk through things. That's more organic to me.
Yeah.
And there's probably specific areas that I should be focused on that are very targeted to our founders. And maybe naturally it's the things that I get asked every single day. So I do think there's some trial and error that comes with trying to find your lane. And I'm sure you feel the same. And, maybe it's not about going viral, but specifically speaking to one or two potential customers or whatever it might be. And that in itself can yield really positive results, right? And so I'm naturally always talking to people, asking these types of questions. And then I find, oh, if I'm learning a tremendous amount from someone, then this is someone that I should loop into the rest of my world too,
Yeah.
right? So, and
Yeah.
simply all I'm doing is hitting the record button on what would typically be a standard conversation that you and I would be having around you advising me on how to
Yeah.
teach my founders the proper way to
Right.
build, right? So,
Right.
I think that's kind of what you're speaking to as well.
There's definitely a difference between influence and like viewership, right? Where or influence an audience, whatever, however you want to call it, where I think a lot of founders feel this pressure because they see other founders going viral and like getting these big view numbers and whatever. But the reality is I know founders that have hundreds of thousands of followers who are really struggling on the sales front. And I
Yeah.
know founders who have a couple thousand followers who are killing it because they have built so much trust and like such a influential relationship with the people that do follow them.
It's such a good point. And yeah, there's a very high likelihood that the person that's actually going to be considering buying the product isn't going to be directly engaging or wanting to show the world that they're looking at that specific product, right? Or whatever it might be.
This is again the weirdest thing about sharing your thoughts on the internet, but you meet someone and they feel like they know you already. And as weird as that can be, it also creates this crazy shortcut where suddenly you can like close a deal in one conversation when that's happened because you've already done all the legwork of like building that trust and relationship versus cold meeting somebody for the first time and having to get from A to B of like, here's who I am, here's what I think, here's why you should pay attention.
Right. You have credibility, you have rapport, and at some point they saw your face or they saw your blog speaking about something they resonated with and they don't even really remember what it was, but automatically you're someone to them now, right?
And I know now we're into sort of like content creation and influencer land, but I do think there is a really strong tie with especially early stage founders building community around them. They are kind of one and the same. I think as a company or as a brand gets larger, you start to differentiate and like pull those motions apart. But early on, it's all together.
When we think about community, I think more often than not, people automatically think about a physical community or a group of people getting together, whether it's for a dinner to talk about a specific product, like you had mentioned on the accounting front, or whatever it might be, but pulling a group together in physical form. Talk to me a little bit about how you think about community more as a strategy or more tactically speaking.
This is one of the things that took me a few years to understand because my journey was that I created a community as a product, the Old Girls Club. That was my first like community project. And then I moved into companies where it was community as a strategy for the brand, and realizing that bringing a bunch of your users or potential users together in a space is often not the right strategy. Like it can often result in like a dead space, or like a space that like isn't representative of the best version of your brand. And then it's like weird when you have to shut it down and you have to moderate it. You have to do all these things. And if there's a really strong case for it, I think it can be amazing. It can really be like an incredible asset to a company, but it's very rare that that's the case. But then you get into things like virtual event series, or like pooling resources from your community or from your users and helping them feel like even a newsletter can feel like community as a strategy, where
totally,
if someone's getting a newsletter and getting to see what other people are doing with this product or in this space, like they then feel in community with those other people, even though they don't have 24/7 access to them.
For sure.
And so I really encourage people to think about, like, imagine your brand is your home and you're welcoming people into your home for a dinner party. What does that look and feel like for your specific use case? Like, what are people going to be excited about experiencing? What are they looking for when they come? Are they looking to connect with each other? Are they looking to connect with you? Are they looking to get information? Are they looking to share stories? What conversations would happen over that dinner table? What little things could you do to make them feel more welcome, and that kind of thing? And like, as a metaphor, maybe it is that you end up hosting a dinner at your house, but more likely it's that it broadens out into like, how do they feel when they open that email from you? How do they feel when they come to that event that you're hosting? How do they feel when you respond to them on social? But really trying to like personify yourself and your brand as like a host of a group of people, I think can really help people clue into their kind of special sauce as far as community goes.
I love that. You touched on it a little bit, but you mentioned Slack groups and even like a WhatsApp group, and sometimes those can be like checking a box, but they can feel like they need some type of moderation, or at least someone to kind of allow things to happen, because I don't know that everyone wants to just raise their hand and start throwing things to a group of people that are unfamiliar to them. So any tips or tools that you think could be helpful for those that are trying to moderate a community and create some authentic and organic conversation that's not just for the sake of having some?
There's a magic number of 100, that if you have fewer than 100 people, it's going to feel dead. Like, there's just no world where enough people are online at the same time that it's going to feel like anything is happening and people are going to feel weird contributing. One of the things that works well is if you can get sort of like a wait list of people that are actually really excited about meeting each other, and then put them all in at once, for example, where it's like, okay, suddenly there's 200 people here. Oh my God, we have so much to talk about. The other thing would be structure. People love rules. Going back to the house party dinner example, we all know that we feel more confident and comfortable going to an event when we know the dress code, when we know what type of food is going to be served, when we know when we're supposed to get there, what time does happy hour end, what time am I supposed to get out, all of those. And like, the more structure you can create as a host, the more excited people are going to be, because they're confident that they're participating in the right way. And so it's actually not about like having to convince people to participate a lot of the times. It's actually just making them feel psychologically safe about participating, because it's so obvious that they're doing the correct thing that then they will do it.
I love that.
So I think people are often worried about like making too many rules and whatever. And like, people love rules, like make all the rules, make all the guidelines. So those would be, I think, my initial suggestions if somebody is thinking about moderating.
Cool. I love that. That's super, super helpful. Awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on and all of the knowledge. I mean, I think we could go on. And as you just said, like, that last topic in itself could probably be another 3-hour conversation. But if people have questions, or if they wanted to tap into your wisdom, where's the best place for them to follow you or be a part of your community?
LinkedIn and Substack are both great places. My Substack is readgoodwork.com. It's called Good Work. And then my LinkedIn is just my LinkedIn. And then if they are a woman or non-binary person that is 10 plus years into their career, the Old Girls Club is a great place for them as well. So would love for them to check that out too.
Cool. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Mallory. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It was so great to be here. I was just about to say, so great to have me. So great to have me.
And thank you all for coming on the show. Perfect.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.